Welcome, everyone. We are in prime form technically today. Thank you, Caleb and Susan. So today we are welcoming back Dr. Paul Alexander. It's a great day to have him back for a number of reasons. Just by coincidence, it turns out he was last here on January 11th, 2023. So it's exactly 1 year to the day that we have him in here. And it is on the heels of Dr. Fauci's interview in front of the House Subcommittee on coronavirus, in which he talked about the fact that the 6-foot social distancing was not scientific, it's just something that appeared. Shocking that goes on, that he continues to sort of skate with that admission. And what was the other one? There was some other thing that I did. I'm not sure he actually even said it, but we'll get to that and other things with Dr. Alexander, who's, of course, an epidemiologist. He was a research methodology teacher, assistant professor at McMaster University. He is an evidence-based medicines and research a researcher. We'll get to all his details, but he was there when many of these decisions were made at the NIH, and he will give us that report again and his new thoughts after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way.
He was an alcoholic
Because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin, ridiculous.
I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that?
I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people.
I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals.
Let's just deal with what's real.
We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time.
Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat.
If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
Are you one of the millions of American women and men dealing with premature hair thinning and hair loss? Or maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in your family? Start 2024 with a real solution that delivers results without the harsh side effects or unwanted chemicals and no need for prescription. Provia uses a safe natural ingredient, Procapil, to effectively target the three main causes of premature hair thinning and hair loss. Susan has been using Provia for months and she loves it.
I'm so happy because Provia is helping me grow longer, stronger, and shinier hair, especially up on top.
In fact, Provia was created by the founder of Genucel, the makers of our favorite skincare products, so it is no surprise that she has seen amazing results. Right now, new customers save over 50% plus free shipping. Every introductory package includes a full 60-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus the Provia Super Concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. Don't wait. Order now to save an extra 10% and get free shipping at proviahair.com/Drew. That's PROVIAHAIR, proviahair.com/DREW. All right, as I was saying, Dr. Paul Alexander was at the Health and Human Services Department, where he was a former senior advisor to COVID pandemic policy. As I said, he was there when many of these decisions were made. The other thing I was trying to think of that Fauci had said was that the lab leak theory is not a conspiracy theory. Shocking that he would say that. And finally, his quote actually was, social distancing recommendations forced on Americans, quote, sort of just appeared and were not likely not based on scientific data. Likely. I would just ask him to direct me towards one document that substantiated 6 feet for an aerosolized virus. It's looking, so many of these excesses that happened during COVID are looking worse and worse as time goes on. We know it's an aerosol, so we know that wearing a mask with a slight jet here that steams up your glasses is going to increase the aerosol and spread it further distances. You're not only not protecting somebody else, you are increasing the number of people you're going to expose. And that the surgical masks, because it's an aerosol, of course, spit, fluid, inconsequential in the transmission of this particular respiratory virus. So Dr. Paul Alexander is an epidemiologist. He's a researcher. He has a PhD, I believe will have to tell me whether it's epidemiology or not. Please welcome Dr. Paul Alexander. What is your PhD in exactly? I don't have the information right here, Paul.
Hi, Drew. Thanks for having me and your team once again. Tremendous show as always. And my graduate training outside of, so I did a graduate school master's at University of Toronto in epidemiology. I went on to Oxford and did a graduate degree in evidence-based medicine and clinical epidemiology. I did some work at Johns Hopkins, a short certificate in biological warfare and epidemiology of it. But my doctorate is in evidence-based medicine from McMaster University in Canada. And for those who don't know, people who go on to get into the research methods programs at Stanford, Yale, Harvard, are people who could not get into the McMaster program. The McMaster program is the seat of evidence-based medicine globally. My doctoral supervisor was the founder of evidence-based, anything to do with evidence-based research, Dr. Gordon Guyot and Dr. Dave Sackett. So I did my postdoc with him also. And anything to do with research methods, randomized trials, observational studies, anything to do with research generally comes out of McMaster. And we constantly refine the process and refine the methods. So that's my background training. But you know, I'm very, very humble that you've had me here again. And persons like Dr. McCullough, Dr. Reish, Dr. Marcus, myself, we provide technical scientific support to the wellness company, twc.health. Go to twc.health, take a look at the website and what they offer. It's groundbreaking, revolutionary way of medicine with some good nutraceuticals, etc. So I just wanted to put that on because I'm very happy to be working with them.
Me too. I'm working with them too. And my position on it is not just what you're describing, but also that we're putting control, access in the hands of patients. It's time we let patients be driving the ship. But I want you at some point here to tell the story about what happened over at HHS. But before we do, I think the evidence-based medicine topic is a perfect place to start here. I want to start with that because I don't know if your research advisors are still there at McMaster's, but if they are. They must be they must be dying. What happened to evidence-based medicine? They must be mind-boggled as much as I am, gobsmacked as much as you and I are. How do they understand what has happened to our profession?
Well, you ask a very good question, and I'm a purist scientist in the sense that, again, I come from that school and that program, so I have to represent it in a way. Dr. Reish and myself are actually almost the same in this regard. Well, the problem is evidence-based medicine died during COVID. It committed suicide, basically, because no one was really practicing evidence-based medicine and evidence-based research. And for your listener, evidence-based research and medicine basically is trying to come up with decision-making that is informed by the most highest quality, trustworthy evidence. And it's the body of evidence that we're talking about. We're not necessarily talking about one study. We are saying that if you give me an estimate of effect for a drug in terms of its benefit or its harms, we want you to look at all of the evidence, the randomized trials, the observational research, strong research, weak research, and give us the best so we could have as much confidence in the estimate of effect. Evidence-based medicine is reproducible. The doctrine is it has to be explicit, open, transparent. And that's the difference, because what I'm trying to say is from about 40 years ago, the idea was clinicians, etc., and surgeons were making decisions based on what their colleagues did, what they heard worked. And the idea was that they were not consulting the literature and the data, etc., to make decisions. Now, I think in one way, Drew, evidence-based medicine went too far and removed too much of the decision-making from the clinician, and have these clinicians reading books, running into the library to consult. No, you have to give the clinician and the surgeon their clinical discretion in the decision-making too. So maybe the pendulum will come back a little bit. But I agree with you. Evidence-based medicine died because all of the research in COVID is basically junk, I have to say. Research methodologically wise, it cannot stand up to scientific muster. Really, what JAMA, Lancet, BMJ, whatever they're publishing 25 years ago, if you sent it to me to review, or even you as a reviewer of an article, I would recommend do not publish. We're getting stuff today that cannot normally stand up to scientific scrutiny and is being published. So it's a terrible situation for the population, because
and there's another twist on it that's even more disturbing to me, which is that science is a dialogue. It's a back and forth. It's never just all one direction. Results don't go one way and that's that. There's a consensus that builds. We are seeing what does get published. Also, what doesn't get published might be something worthy of scientific scrutiny, and it doesn't get published. So it's being hit on both ends. Things not worthy are being published, and things that potentially are worthy because the topic isn't any good for the reviewers or the editorial process aren't being published. It's really breathtaking. Let me ask this. I'm sort of a purist scientist, and I was trained in a very purist view of the scientific method. And in my world, I've heard this has been modified a little bit lately, but you came up with a hypothesis, you designed an experiment to test that hypothesis, and you tried to ask simple, narrow questions that you could control. And then based on that narrow question, is this true or not, test it. And then essentially what I was reared on was do a null hypothesis. That I don't see that ever being done. What happened to the basic scientific method?
Well, I mean, once again, I agree with you, and I'm happy that your acumen is as a purist too. So you understand how much it not bothers us, because we understand the dirt and the lack, the suboptimal work that's coming out of academic research now. The reality is that we know the power of things like large, pragmatic, randomized controlled trials, simple, etc., in being able to tease out cause and effect. I agree with you fully that we don't have the proper comparative effectiveness research today to help us make informed decisions. And this research we have is very weak. And I think what has happened too is that many people mounted research in COVID and really didn't know what they were doing. And they were submitting stuff to the journals. They were violating their protocols. They didn't even register protocols. So we couldn't even see what they were doing and what they were not doing. And like you mentioned earlier, this issue of they're not publishing the good stuff, which is going against their narrative. You know from your own expertise that we're talking about the negative effect studies and publication bias. And we could actually see that in the research where we plot our graphs to show that what is being published is only the research that has outcomes or estimates of effect that support what the researcher wants to see, positive effects. They will not publish the ones that are negative, which actually are very important. And it's like the clinical trials done by Moderna and Pfizer. They stopped the studies early for benefit. They said, Fauci and they said, well, it looks like we have a signal of benefit here, so we're going to stop the trial. But you and I understand, Drew, and many people in your audience, because I really don't know who the audience is, but I assume some of them have done this too, that if you stop a study early for benefit, what you are actually doing is you are risking an overestimated estimate of effect. That's a risk of bias. We flag that. Why? Because had you run that study to sample size, that benefit that you would have seen so early on accrue would have petered out, and you may not have seen the benefit downstream. In fact, the harms that you failed to see upstream would have probably become clearer. So in the research that was produced and published by Pfizer and Moderna and accepted wrongfully by the FDA to grant EAU is actually not just suboptimal, but it's wrong science. It cannot stand up to proper scientific scrutiny. Those studies are risk of bias studies. None of the estimates of effect are proper. They're actually, to me, fraudulent. And they use the relative risk reduction as the estimate of effect when you know, Drew, that the estimate that we wanted, the outcome measure, is actually absolute risk reduction. And when Pfizer says there's a 95% relative risk reduction, whoop-de-doo, based on 170 events, the absolute risk reduction is just 0.7. You would have never taken that shot if a doctor would have sat you down and said, listen, the absolute benefit is just 0.7%, and there's a downside because the shot carries risk, the shot carries potential toxicity, there's a cost to the shot, there's uncomfortableness, there might be fever, you may react with anaphylaxis, etc. And when you weigh the benefits versus the harms, you'd say, but wait, this benefit is so modest compared to actual harms that I could experience that I don't want. I would avoid this shot. People were never told the truth. Every single thing. Look, had we done nothing, Drew, had this thing come around, this is my opinion based on 4 years now, had this thing come around in December, January of 2020, and we done nothing, it is my view that we may not even have noticed this. It is my view that had we done nothing, we'd have lost far fewer people. It was the response, the medical management is what killed most of the people. This virus did take some people, Drew, high risk, elderly. We know that. You are an expert. I know that you're a clinician, an expert. But when you look at the denial of treatment, the lockdowns, the collateral damage from the lockdowns, that's Jay Bhattacharya's expertise. You look at the vaccine itself, the harms from the vaccine, and you look at the medical management with the isolation, the sedation with propofol and midazolam, the ventilator, the denial of antibiotics. When you look at those deaths, you realize we actually may have killed more people by the medical response. And that's a very controversial statement to make, but that's the statement I'm making, and I'm willing to defend it. Had we done nothing, we'd have been better off.
Certainly, the place we ended up really doing nothing was in the care of the patients, right? Because there was lockdown, because there was panic, because the hospitals were closed. Where we really did nothing is the one place we should have been doing something, which was observing our patients, monitoring our patients, trying different things on the patients. The steroid inhalers would have worked. Steroids themselves would have hurt. We could argue about early treatment and whatnot, but there were things to be done. Patients were sent home and told to come back when they were blue. That was the first chapter of this whole catastrophe that I just blew my mind. By the way, I wrote down a couple of the things that Jay Bhattacharya said to me. He said they looked at every single person alive as a biohazard, and he said, society can't run that way. He's absolutely right about that. And now I just went to an event last night talking about the mental health consequences on teenagers and young adults. It's profound. It's profound what we've done. The numbers of deaths that are going to happen as a result of despair and drugs, it's just profound. None of that would have happened if we had done nothing. Plus, you mentioned the slight improvement with the vaccine. We didn't know the potential side effects. Now we know. We can go to a 22-year-old male and go, there's a 1 in 5,000, let's say 1 in 50,000 chance of myocarditis. And half of those are going to be, at 1 year, we know it persists. And those people, some of those may end up with really serious cardiac problems, as opposed to zero risk from certainly in the Omicron age. Why are we still pushing these things?
Well, this
on young people particularly.
And this is why you have your show, and it's so popular, and this is why even the wellness company have particular products to address the spike protein, post-virus, and vaccine. Vaccine is a problem. Look, I think historically we will learn things that we think we understand today that we will get to know was wrong-sided, and we will be corrected long-term. Yeah, we were wrong.
For sure.
We thought I figured that out. No. I cannot understand how a product that is so problematic in the sense of it's causing harms, there are reported deaths. Look, I put out a Substack about this Japanese study with this teenage girl who died, that they're linking it direct to the shot. That's not the only study. We have many instances. So we have a problem, yet the powers that be don't want to talk about it. And when we talk about it, we get attacked and smeared and slandered. So it has to be that people are being incentivized, Jay, in some way. And incentivization is not just money, cash money. You could get incentivization by being able to keep your job, keep your research position, keep your research grant. And that is wrong, because what we need is honest, scientific debate on what the facts are. Bring the facts to the table. And even if you don't like the outcome, you're going to have to agree with it, because this is proper science. We are not dealing with proper science here. Zero. I mean, between Redfield, between Walensky as heads of the CDC, both of them. I knew Dr. Redfield personally. In fact, he told me personally about the 6-foot social rule. When I wrote that 2 years ago, people said, how are you sure he told? Yeah, he told me that. I liked him. To me, I know him personally. He's a good, God-fearing man. But he was flat wrong on a lot of the science coming out of CDC and the decisions that they made while he was there. Walensky was worse, and the present CDC director even worse. So we have a problem. We seem to have patronage. I'll say it. He was a patronage, probably appointment under Trump, like Walensky and under Biden. They're not putting the right people in place who bring the pedigree. But we don't want a political animal. We want somebody who knows what the hell they're saying and what they're doing, and they could lead those thousands of employees to actually give us good science and good research, not politicize the agency. So I am one of them saying straight up, whoever the next president, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm on the Trump train. But I have said, Drew, show me a Democrat. Show me a liberal. Show me a rhino even. You show me somebody. Show me somebody who's an independent. And they love the country. They love the borders. They respect the flag. They respect the anthem. They know about, understand law and order. They understand all those things. They like the police. They don't want to burn the police down. They respect the military and the service, the history of America, the greatest country in the world, bar none. Will you show me that person, Democrat even, I'll vote for them. I don't have to vote for President Trump and work. Right now, I'm in his orbit. But I will not support him if you show me somebody who could check. Because Trump checks those boxes. You show me somebody could check them +1. I'll strongly consider them. But right now on the deck, I need somebody like a Trump to go into D.C. and burn that place down. He needs to raise CDC, FDA, NIH, NIAID. Raise it to the floor. Take it down to the studs. Fire everybody, 1,000 top down across the board in all of those agencies, because they're inept, they're incompetent, they're politicized. I know, because I work there. I know these people. I can't believe the quality of the people at CDC. They have some really good people, strong people too, scientists, but the vast majority of them are just overpaid and underworked. And they get there not by ability. I'm sorry. I've been same in Canada. I work for the government of Canada. I'm an epidemiologist for Health Canada and the Public Health Agency of Canada. Some of the most inept people work there, and they make decisions that affect lives, like the decisions they made on lockdowns. We found, Drew, I'm echoing Jay, but I go in a little deeper than Jay. We looked at all of the lockdowns. I published a paper with McCullough, Risch, Dr. Ramin, Dr. Howard Tenenbaum. We looked at every single study in this entire world, across every country, every study, every report. We could find not one study has been published up to 4 years now to show that any lockdown worked to curb transmission or death. None, not one. Same with school closures. That's an incredible statement for me to make, but I challenge anyone to produce one for me, because I know what the data is. I publish it, 400 studies in Brownstone. Go and find it and read it. You bring one and show me the lock. You can't. So that's in other words, we lock society down based on what? We had no, we never did it before, and we had no evidence that it would work. Same with the social distancing. Redfield told me at HHS, I asked him, I said, Dr. Redfield, blunt. Dr. Redfield, show me the studies, because again, you use the word purist. I'm a purist. And I went there to help with my research ability. He laughed with me, not at me, but he chuckled. He said, Paul, there's no science. We made it up. I said, Dr. Redfield, you made it up? He said, yes. Some of the countries we're in consultation with, because that happened before I arrived, 2 months before. So it was already on deck. They wanted 1 foot. Some said 3 feet. Some said 12 feet. Some said 22 feet. We found 6 feet sounded good. Now, people thought when I wrote that in a Substack, in my blog, that, well, he's pulling that out of his behind. Why would Redfield? Here, Redfield told me, Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA commissioner, went on the news shortly after me and said the same, because he was there too. He said it was made up. Now Fauci has come and said it was made up. So I was speaking what I knew. I actually spoke to Redfield. That was COVID. Everything that they did, they were making it up as they were going along. The only problem is their policies had serious real-world implications, and their policies harmed people. Many people died because of their policies. I'm telling you, we had husbands and wives. The data was coming to my office, so we knew. Me and Dr. Atlas's, it was coming to us. Husbands and wives were turning up to the ER, standing there across America. Wife telling ER doctor, doctor, I have been locked down for 10 months, 12 months. I've had no work, no income. I'm angry, I'm bitter, I'm miserable. And I have to admit, I've been physically violent against my husband, standing right here. Husband would tell the doctor, doctor, I too have been beating my wife every day. I have not worked for a year. We're losing the house. We can't pay the mortgage. It's a disaster. Our life is over. But they're standing there, both of them with their arms open, and a child is laying in their arms, unresponsive. And they're telling the doctor, today, doctor, we're here because we think we crossed the line today. We think we might have killed the child. Please help us. And the child is there unresponsive with broken bones. They beat the child to a frazzle. And that happened across America multiple times. I know because they were reporting was coming to our office. And we were rolling it up to the White House. So when Trump was on the stump, begging the CDC and arguing for the states to open the economy and the schools, it was because he was getting the reports from us. We harmed, and I'm actually trying to support what you just said, Drew. We harmed our populations. We harmed children. Some models suggest it will take the rest of the 21st century, 80 more years, to put them back to where they were in January of 2020. We harmed them. Sexual abuse, physical abuse. When we locked schools down, we didn't understand that most American children get their only meal in school, most. When we closed schools, many American children starved for months. When we closed schools, many American children were sexually abused in their own homes. And school is a place where it's flagged for the first time. We put children at risk. Many children were physically beaten by their families friends. Most children of sexual abuse, the parents knew the person. That's another important statistic. And children suffered. We suffered our children, and it is bearing out.
Well, I would argue, I would argue you're pointing out the most extreme, obviously, cases, but as you go down the scale of severity of the consequences, they are still profound in terms of the impact on development, mental health,
Of course.
cognitive development at school. I will tell the story now. I always tell it when I have this conversation. I suppose I'll take this one to my grave. When the Ukrainian women were running out of Ukraine at the beginning of the war, the invasion from Russia, They were running into Poland with their children, and there were reporters there with microphones. And to a person, each woman said, "Oh yeah, it's terrible. We're leaving our sons, our fathers, our husbands back to fight this war." And then the next thing out of their mouth was, "But these kids have been out of school for 2 weeks. We have to get them back in school immediately. It's been 2 weeks." That's a sane mother. 2 weeks out of school is for real. It is substantial. In this state, California, where I am right now, we did it for 2 years. And what we expect that to suddenly magically vaporize in terms of its effect, it's too much. Dr. Alexander, I'm going to take a little break here. When we come back, amongst other things, I want to talk about Dr. Birx, because she was the one that evangelized about closure. And I've got a little pet theory that when a physician evangelizes on any topic, when they become I don't know other word to use, but evangelical. It's not religiously evangelical. They become evangelical on a topic. That's how we got the opioid crisis, for instance. That's how opiates were evangelized by the pain medicine world, where pain became the fifth vital sign and pain assessment was more important than the pulse and all this craziness. That was because of evangelical physicians. Birx, on her own, and in her book, not only evangelized, but felt like a hero in having done so. I'd love to get your assessment now that we have Dr. Fauci slowly turning towards reality, where he is saying, again, the 6 feet social distancing was non-scientific, made up, no evidence that it did anything, and yet we got the world to cooperate with that. It's just sensational. And 2, that the lab leak, where the specifics on the origin of the virus came from, I don't know, really. Certainly not a conspiracy to talk about lab leak origin, although anyone who dared to bring that up a year or 2 ago was called a conspiracist. So we'll do those topics when we return.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's make a resolution that's easy to keep and delivers immediately on its promise. With Genucel Skincare, you can turn back the clock and look 5, 10, even 15 years younger. And right now, Genucel Skincare is celebrating 2024 with its New Year's sales event. Save over 60% off all of our favorite Genucel products with one of our customized skincare routine packages. Say goodbye to those fine lines in the forehead and around your corner of your eyes, sagging jawline, dark marks, skin redness, even under eye bags. Leave them in 2023. Genucel works for women and men. It's safe for all skin types and perfect for skin of any age. Plus, with its immediate effects, Genucel promises results that will make you smile. Guaranteed, or 100% of your money back. Start your new year look off right with one of our custom Genucel skincare bundles right now at Genucel.com/Drew. Use our special code Drew at checkout for extra savings off your order today. And remember, every order placed is automatically upgraded to free shipping. Don't wait. That is Genucel.com/Drew, GENUCEL.com/DREW. Well, most of my career I've been urging people to kick habits, change habits. Well, this time I'd like to suggest getting into the habit of adding Paleo Valley grass-fed bone broth protein to your daily nutrition regimen. Here's CEO Autumn Smith.
It's made from cows with 100% grass-fed and finished, and bones. They're bones rather than the hide. Most bone broth or collagen powders are made from hides or hooves, but ours is actually made from the bone because it'll contain additional nutrients. Bone broth is a way to bring back those nutrients, those minerals, and there's glucosaminoglycans, and then there's collagen, which helps us prevent wrinkles and joint pain and actually heals our gut. There's gelatin, and there's just all of these ingredients that the modern diet has kind of left by the wayside.
Susan and I have been mixing the chocolate-flavored bone broth literally into our coffee every morning for months, and we've noticed a difference in our energy, appearance of our hair, skin, nails. Susan's particularly very happy with this. The bioavailable protein also helps us feel satiated. That's the part I'm happy with. Paleo Valley bone broth also comes in vanilla and pure, unflavored, and can easily be added to your coffee, smoothies, yogurt. Go to drdrew.com/paleo, Paleo, for 15% off your first order. Again, that is drdrew.com/paleo. I think everyone knows the next medical crisis could be just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of another pandemic or something much more routine like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. We have their physicians on, like Dr. McCullough, frequently. The Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy.
It's a safety net. It's an insurance policy
absolutely.
that you hope you're not going to
100%.
need, but if you need it, you sure as heck are going to wish you had it if you need it.
Be ready for anything. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. The medical emergency kit provides a guidebook to aid in the safe use of all these life-saving medications. From anthrax to tick bites to COVID-19, the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit is exactly what you need to have on hand to be prepared. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next. Go to drdrew.com/TWC. That is DRDREW.com/TWC to get 10% off today. Just click on that link. Again, that's the emergency kit you should have on hand. We have more kits coming for more circumstances like travel, whatnot. Also, Susan brought her favorite supplements here, including mine is the restful sleep. I've never found a better sleep supplement. It's just uncanny how well that stuff works. What you have the spike support and the
if you've had COVID recently, you take the spike support. And also there's
Susan? Caleb, can we see?
There's also, no, I'm not on camera. And then the gummies, which have bromelain. I use the kids' gummies. And then I also like the hair, skin, and nail stuff. That's amazing. Show that
check
one.
it out. There's a lot of really
They
good,
have a lot of great
high-quality
products.
supplements. It's kind of golden age of supplements these days. Before I bring Dr. back, I want to remind you about his book. It is called Presidential Takedown: How Anthony Fauci, the CDC, NIH, and World Health Organization conspired to overthrow President Trump. There is the book, and here is Dr. Paul Alexander, who has been on fire in his Substack lately. You can follow him on Twitter. It is, put it up there, Caleb, if you would, his Substack and the Twitter. Make sure I get this right. drpaulalexander.com, where you can find it.
I don't have his Twitter account, but you can find it at drpaulalexander.com.
Got it. And the Substack, Paul?
The Substack, the address is very simple. They just need to Google Alexander COVID News. Just Alexander space COVID space news, and it will pop up. And it's free. I've made it free. You know, you don't have to pay to join. There's no moratoriums, no firewalls. Anyone could comment, and you could get into the discussion.
Excellent. Now, before the break, I mentioned Dr. Birx and her evangelizing for lockdowns and her sense of heroism in her own book on having done so. What is your assessment these days?
Well, I agree with you, and Dr. Birx and me. Dr. Birx had serious problems with Dr. Atlas. Myself, he was in the Eisenhower building. I was at the Health and Human Services, because we were raising serious hell with her and Fauci as to the lockdowns, the school closures, etc. And I think she wrote in her book that she didn't really care for me. And the thing about it is, what I don't understand, Drew, is these people made a lot of mistakes, and they're not being held accountable. The type of hearings and the discussions needed are not happening. So I hope it will come. A lot of these people, the reality is you can't hate people. You can't. You have to love each other and be, gracious, mercy. People make mistakes. Everyone is.
Just froze on Dr. Alexander. Caleb, are you still there with me, or is that just on this end? No.
Yeah, I'm still here. That was just his call dropped. He's coming back.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, again, he was there. He was the one fighting the fight. I remember I was on a nightly news broadcast. I've discussed this before here in Los Angeles, and a school board member came in the night they closed the schools. And I was sort of shocked that they were doing this, because it seemed excessive and bizarre for this particular pathogen. And the school board member came in, and I said, well, who told you to do this? Did you consult with a team of infectious disease experts? Was there public health? Who told you? And thank God there's still footage of it. And if you look on the Adam and Dr. Drew show, we played it there a couple of times. And the guy looked at me and went, we just think it's the right thing to do. You could close, what? Just because you think it's the right, what does that even mean? Who are you to make these decisions about, it just was just the most uncanny experience. And thank God I was asking those questions and they had no answers to them, but it was still so odd to be around during those days. And always beware of physicians that have evangelical points of view. It's why I really try to be careful and humble with my positions. In fact, I got a little over my skis. That's what when I look back at my own errors, I feel like that's where I got into trouble, which was being excessively sort of hubristic and pushing back on the chaos and panic that was being induced. At the time, I thought it was the press that was doing it. I really did. I thought they were the ones just doing it to try to do what they always do. I mean, look around now. I mean, every time it snows, it's climate change. Like every time there's a white lung syndrome in China, that was nothing. Hey, by the way, it's respiratory virus season. We're going to have respiratory viruses increase, including COVID. It is going to happen. And it's going to happen every respiratory season. Are we going to be panicking about that every year for the rest of human life? It's just too bizarre. It's just wildly, I don't know what to think about. But Caleb, how are we doing there with Dr. Alexander?
We're trying to reconnect him. He's coming back into the Zoom call. It's been so bizarre, Drew. Like, as you guys probably noticed yesterday, we had tons of technical issues. Today, I had even technicians come out and change all the hardware, only for us to find out that it was because of the tornadoes that went through Florida, knocked out a whole fiber array, they called it. So everybody using fiber on the East Coast has been having some issues like this. So he's coming back. He's on his way.
And then now. Good, and now he's having still this up, but we've been doing pretty good, I think. And so we are dependent on some of these systems, and that's fine. That's how this works. And so you froze there in the middle of what you were saying. I wanted you to continue your thoughts, sir.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Drew.
Oh, now we don't. There we are. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Somehow or the other we lost there, but you were talking about Dr. Burks. The reality about it is that I was trying to express that a lot of mistakes were made by a lot of people. And we need to find a way to get to the bottom of the mistakes and have a serious debate so that these kinds of things don't happen. I tend to believe that I don't believe that people were just purely inept, because from very early on, including people like Bhattacharya and Kulov, myself, Atlas, McCullough and stuff, we were shouting out about the harms of like the lockdowns and stuff. And it seems as though these people like the Burks and they of the world, they just hardened the lockdowns and extended them when the evidence had accumulated quickly. 2-3 weeks out of the gate, by the middle of April, that the lockdowns were harmful and harming the society. So we need to be able to ask them these questions as to what were they looking at, what data, what evidence, to keep the lockdowns going, especially harms on children by closing schools. And I think Dr. Burks was a very charismatic individual. Her fights with Dr. Atlas were legendary in the White House, etc., in meetings, because he's a very evidence-based guy. He would walk into meetings with stacks of research studies and papers. Burks and Fauci and they would have nothing. They would sit down on the desk at the table with nothing. And Atlas would we'd ask them serious questions. And they would not be able to answer the questions from a data and evidence point of view. Yet they were producing these graphs that they would put up every day, spooking President Trump and with all these infections and cases. Yet they weren't telling President Trump, Dr. Burks, and they weren't telling President Trump that they were overcycling the PCR process. So we knew that many of those positive cases that you were taking people out of school and society were potentially false positive for infectious pathogen. So there's so many crazy, nonsensical, specious actions taken that when we look back at it, I have to say, Drew, that I don't know how people like you, your crew, me, that we got here. Because at one point you thought, well, the world was just going to be destroyed because they were just doing things that were just harming people. And now we realize that everything that was done with COVID basically was wrong. That I ask anyone right now, give me an example of a policy, just one, that was done, that was implemented and imposed on us, that worked. I don't think anybody could find a policy that worked. We lost in every single thing that they did, but yet $4 to $5 trillion moved from the lower and the lower middle class population towards the wealthy people. Wealthy people who were in big business made a lot of money and became richer. We shifted the burden of morbidity and mortality, though, to the poor, because the middle class and upper middle class, these people and the rich people could have afforded to shield Dr. Burke's lockdowns. She was locking down, yet the poorer people, marginalized people, women who had front-facing jobs, had to go to the grocery to work, had to go to the assembly floor, had to go out there, had to drive buses, men. Those poor people had to face whatever this was. And when we look at the data, the infections were highest in them and the mortality. So there's a lot of questions as to why certain things were done and what went wrong. I don't find that Fauci and Birx and they had this these hearings. Let me tell you something so your listeners could understand. In these hearings that are taking place now when Fauci came up, the ones before, etc., and even now, people like myself, and I full disclosure, people reach out to me from the Congress and the Senate and say, Dr. Alexander, can you put together some questions for us? We are the congressional, we are the House members, we are the senators, whatever. Questions for us to ask. And I reach out to a lot of scientists and doctors that I work with, and I say, you guys give me questions too. Let's put together a big trove. And I sent it to them. And then they started to select. They would select questions that they want. And they would put in questions that are so nonsensical as just junk. And then I would start communicating and say, but wait, hold on. This is supposed to be a hearing and we want accountability and stuff, right? And punishment. What shocked me, Drew, is that, and I can't name names here, but I have the emails. Some of the aides would write me back to the different Congress people and say, Paul, I don't think you're really understanding. We bring in these people up here to the Hill under questioning and hearings, but we're not looking to punish anybody, etc. We're just trying to embarrass them. Well, I nearly fell out of my chair. So I wrote them back and said, what do you mean embarrass them? Do you mean like this is a dog and pony show? Yes, it is a dog and pony show. And this is the point. When the Democrats have the chairmanships, they do the same. And the Republicans have the chairmanships, they do the same. There is no accountability that's going to come out of these hearings as they exist today. None. And that's the disastrous
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, although there's a part of me, I've said this before, that I don't want us to go on a punishment-seeking affair, in the sense that my priority is getting to the truth so we can adjust and put things in place to make sure this doesn't happen again. And I worry that if you seek to punish people, all the people that want to have a Nuremberg 2.0 and all this stuff, people are going to go on the defensive and you're not going to find anything out. We're not going to figure out a damn thing about what happened because people are going to shut up and follow what the attorneys tell them to do. In this case, at least we have the possibility of finding out where the mistakes were. Just the fact that Fauci said what he said yesterday, that suddenly, you and I have been talking about the 6 feet thing for 2 years, and every time I bring it up, I could get a 500 hits on Twitter calling me an idiot. How dare I? Well, where are those people now? The theme for the day is everybody needs to take a good, hard look at themselves. Everybody, where were you wrong? Where you were right? Where you jumped on to propaganda that was brought by another country many times, and where you were a horrible human being to somebody else who was merely offering an opinion. That is where everybody needs to be, and that should be the focus of even these sorts of hearings. Like, what do you get off telling a guy going after Dr. Fauci in an email, a guy like Jay Bhattacharya, a guy that you funded his research? What were you thinking? What's going on in your mind that you would behave like that? To me, that's of course, they would get embarrassed by all that too, which would satisfy their goals and all this. But I worry about going for blood. I really worry about that. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, look, there's a lot of sage in what you just said, because we are good governance society, and we are civilized people today in the 21st century. We are supposed to have even the most difficult discussions civilly to find a way to have the discourse. But also we need some kind of accountability. We can't. Let me put it to you this way: when Susie went to her doctor and asked her doctor in Canada, as an example, because I know many Susies, this happened to them because I was asked to play a role. Even in America, I told the doctor, I cannot take this vaccine because I have an allergic reaction to components of the vaccine based on my past life. Actually, doctor, you are treating me for one of those components. The doctor would tell her, look, wait right here. I was there. He would go and bring a piece of paper from the province of Ontario, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, or the federal government, showing that as a doctor, if somebody in Canada, this is what happened, and this is still on the books now, it's the rule. If somebody asks you for an exemption, and it's written there, you as a doctor need to inform them that you need to give them the first shot. Only if they develop myocarditis or they get an allergic anaphylaxis reaction there in your office, are you to then consider not giving them any further vaccine? So the person would say, but doctor, that means I could technically potentially die. And here, oh no, don't worry about that. We get a nurse when you come to give your shot because you're a little sensitive, blah, blah, blah. That person will say, doctor, no dice, no deal. I can't. So the person will go back to their workplace and tell their boss, I'm not taking the shot, the doctor not giving me the medical exemption. The boss will say, well, you know, Susie, because the doctor said, if I did give you the exemption, I would get fined $78,000 by the college, by the government, and I could lose my license. So she would tell the boss, he wouldn't give me the exemption. The boss says, we're going to have to lay you off. Well, the other part of that story is Susie went on for 3, 4, 5 months without a job. And across America, many Susies took their life. See, that's the issue. There are a lot of implications for these wrong, crazy policies that we know today that the vaccine was non-sterilizing, non-neutralizing, did not stop transmission. There was never any legal, medical, clinical, scientific basis for mandate. These vaccines should have been offered, never mandated. My argument is should have never even been brought in the first place. But I'm just saying, Susie went and hung herself. So who is going to pay for Susie hanging herself? That's the problem. So when everybody talk about kumbaya and let's hold hands and kiss and make up, Susie had a family that doesn't have a mommy anymore. So that's the issue. And that happened across the world. So these people didn't make, this is not like going to buy a pair of shoes and, oh, I make a mistake, the wrong color. You affected people's lives. People's lives ended because of what you did. And if you made decisions that caused deaths, we need to talk about it. And we need to figure out how to make sure that you don't ever have that kind of authority again. You could never do that again, ever. So, you know, like, let me just say, you know, a couple of little nuggets came onto your show today, and I'll say another one now. I am in Trump orbit, and the discussion was where we need to get President Trump to stand up on the podium in some capacity to really talk about the harms of the lockdowns, to really talk about the vaccines. We know that technically he's the type of person, Trump is not the person to come and say, hey, you know what, boy, these vaccines seem to be a problem. I made a serious mistake with Operation Warp Speed, etc. Never. Trump will never look. But I wrote into his space to direct people in contact with him, because it was asked, and I said, look, President Trump needs to strongly consider, because he likes those words, I am going to strongly consider. We will give it serious consideration. So you could almost hear Trump saying it. We're going to look at liability protection given by that PrEP Act, AZAR, in February 2020. And we're going to strongly consider repealing it, taking it off the books, and even going retroactive. So all of you people who were harmed by the vaccines could have some kind of recourse in a court. We're going to strongly consider a victims' compensation fund. So all you police and military and nurses, etc., who got harmed by the lockdowns, etc., you could get some recourse in compensation. President Trump needs to come to the public and have a couple of those statements because the public was hurt by the lockdowns and these vaccines. I'm sorry to say, and I'm a huge supporter under him. Yes, he was misguided. He was misguided by Fauci and Birx and that whole task force clunker. That was a clunker of people. Buffoons, I call them. Save Brett Gerard, because I actually worked with Dr. Gerard, smart guy. He actually was trying to keep America treading water with these COVID tests, which actually weren't tests. That whole thing was a crazy overcycle madness by itself. But what I'm saying is we need leadership. And we need somebody like a
he
Trump
froze again.
or somebody, and I believe if somebody else comes along, if one of these candidates jump the gun here on Trump and say what I just said, that they're going to look at victim compensation, they're going to look at the liability protection under the PrEP, they're going to find a way to make Americans whole. See, that's the word, that's the legal word. Make us whole again from what we went through. That person could actually win the presidency. So President Trump needs to be very, very focused on this right now because really and truly, Drew, the lockdowns hurt him. They did. People. Yeah,
listen, he shouldn't have gone past 2 weeks for sure. And you're right. He was listening to people that he should not have listened to. And he should stand out. He never talks about being wrong, but all of us, we need to, where we were wrong, we need to come clean immediately. I was looking at the Rumble rants here, and somebody was saying, "Oh, you're afraid you'll be indicted." I have no fear of that at all. I am a student of the French Revolution, and I've been thinking a lot about that lately, and how when the guillotines come out, everybody ends on the guillotine. That's one of the reasons I don't think going for blood is such a great idea. I think it just ends up in a cycle of terror. Frankly, we all become Robespierre at that point. And somebody else also said that I somehow didn't see the true. What was about this guy that calls me Paxlovid, Drew? Look, I'm happy to be open to everything. I'm happy to say where I've been wrong. I'm no fear of indictment. This is the process where you look at yourself and where you were wrong, you come clean about it as quickly as possible, and you try to adjust and learn. That's how you learn. I like being wrong. It's how I grow. I got to take a quick second here. Oh, there it is. Paxlovid, Drew, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. Drew, because you do it like almost every other show. You admit something that you were wrong on and that you learned. That doesn't make any sense what this person is saying.
Yeah. Well, I think it's that they don't like that I still prescribe Paxlovid to elderly patients who get better with it all the time. If I had not only good results from it, I would not prescribe it so much. And by the way, when they start charging $1,300 per course for my patients, maybe we won't be using it so much. But now it's still no cost to the patients. The insurances are still paying for it. Really quickly, Dr. Alexander, I want to tell people about CB Distillery. If you're having pain, if you're stressed out, which this conversation would do so, consider CBD from CB Distillery. CB Distillery targets formulations are made from the highest quality clean ingredients. No fluff, no filters, just pure, effective CBD solutions designed to help. In 2 non-clinical surveys, 81% of customers experienced more calm, 80% said CBD helped with pain after physical activity, and an impressive 90% said they slept better with CBD. Results, of course, will vary. I've been prescribing to patients for both topically and orally for joint pain and whatnot, and for sleep, and it had good results. If you struggle with health concern, haven't found relief, consider CB Distillery. With over 2 million customers and a solid 100% money-back guarantee, CB Distillery is the source you might trust. I have a 20% discount to get you started. Visit cbdistillery.com. Use code DREW, D-R-E-W, for 20% off. That is cbdistillery.com, code DREW, cbdistillery.com. CB Distillery. Let's get back to Dr. Paul Alexander.
Well,
it's also interesting.
CB Distillery, they wanted me to jump in and mention also that I tried the CBD products and I like them. I've tried a lot of CBD stuff over the years, especially the gummies to help you sleep at night. amazing. I suffered from insomnia for like 10 years. I had to be on medication for 10 years, but slowly adding CBD, I was able to get off of my medication, and now I sleep much, much better at night without needing medication anymore. So I very much like these products.
I think we are in a great day of supplements. As I also mentioned, I use the Restful Sleep from TWC for my sleep, and these are things that you can access. Patients should access. You educate yourself and then make your choice and access. And these things are very safe too, by the way, which is nice. Dr. Alexander, so here we are. You and I think we've spoken twice over the last 2 years, I would guess. And I feel as though your position and your messaging has become clearer and more, what word shall I use? Earnest and concerned. No, you're on fire. I'll admit it, but your earnestness and your concern and your clarity have become quite interesting to me, because indeed, as time has gone on, we've learned more, and it's become increasingly clear what happened and how bad it was. What do we do? People still live in silos where to talk about this is somehow threatening their worldview. There's a religiosity that has captured us in many respects in terms of our politics and our COVID feelings. Do you have a specific way of addressing that? Is it the lack of religion that this fills into this void? And do we need a more spiritual life? And is that the answer? Or are there cognitive ways to address these distortions that people are so prone to?
Well, first of all, let me just say quickly, I just want to support everything you said about the wellness company. Good company. I'm proud to be connected to it. TWC.health. Please go and you read and you make informed decisions. Now, the reality is that I think there's so much cognitive bias. I think we're so trained now in schools, etc., that in these kind of safe spaces, kind of world that we live in now, this work world, that if you hear anything that disagrees with your view of the issue, first of all, you hate it, you don't want to hear it, you switch it off, and you just run away. And we have now a system where from the young people go all the way up, there's no ability to have an informed discussion where you're listening to the other person, you're sharing your point of view, and you're taking in what they're saying and maybe want to reflect on it a bit. No. Today we have a situation in America where if I don't like or agree with what you're saying, I don't just have to disagree. I have to physically attack you, and I have to deliberately hate you. And I think that is a devastating place that we have come to. And yes, I think that part of the problem is the issue around religion, in the sense of it doesn't matter to me what religion you ascribe to. I just think a human being needs some sort of faith, because faith gives you, this is how I look at it, and this is how my life is. Like I have to believe in some things that I can't even see. I've been told to me since I was a little kid. So I'm believing, I have faith and trust that my parents and my family and friends and the elders, my mentors, whatever they told me, have some truth in it. So I'm going to hope. We all need hope, Drew. This is how I look at it in a basic way. I need tonight to have hope in tomorrow. That tomorrow isn't come yet, but when I rise, will be in tomorrow. And I hope that tomorrow will be, if not like today, a little better, or even much better than today. So it's that hope that drives us forward and pulls me along. And you find that you could be driving on the street, and sometimes you see these young people particularly, or even middle-aged people, they're walking down the street. You could see that they don't know where they're going. They're punching the post box. They're just kicking the can. They're just moving. And that to me is a dangerous situation, because you need to have some idea in the morning what this is all about, what life is about, what you're going to do today. And I think what happened is that you remember I wrote this paper in Brownstone and about the lockdowns, when they had this guy who ran into the Tops grocery and he shot 10 people dead about a year ago. And I wrote this paper talking about it because he was 18. Well, He was 15 when he started the lockdowns, approximately, and he was 18 when he committed the crime. Now, if you go and you read his manifesto, and that's why I wrote a paper on it, and it was published. I got interviews, it was all over, it was viral. I said, the issue here is young people today, they need structure in their lives. And the lockdowns and the school closures took out the rituals, the predictability rituals, that they need to get up. And he said, look, during the lockdowns, I had one friend in school, and I would look forward to go to school. My family life was terrible. So I'd look forward to go to school every day and see my friend and talk. And all of a sudden, they locked down the school and locked the society down. And they would open it, close it, open it, close it. And eventually I dropped out. And you know what? Nobody looked for me. Nobody asked where I was. Nobody was interested. And I got the time, for the first time in my life, plenty time. I went into the basement and I spent a lot of time searching the dark web. And it was there that I found things that poisoned my mind. And he wrote, I am a monster today and I am going to commit this crime. Basically, he said, because my mind now is gone. And the internet and time darkened me and took me places I didn't know existed. And I am a monster. It made a monster of me. So I think the lockdowns hurt people terribly. It hurt our children irreparably. It's taken a 3-year gap in their social and emotional and maturational development.
Oh, yeah.
That you could see it, you could feel it. And, you use the word religion. It's hard to talk about it because people are going to write in your show and they'll be upset. They will say, oh, we didn't know this was a religious show, blah, blah, blah. But the fact about it is you need some sense of spirituality. You need some sense of faith in tomorrow, in people. You need to trust. And you just need to understand that look, I was born personally as a person. I was born. I grew to understand life growing up, that I have the chance.
Where are you born?
I was born in the Caribbean, in Trinidad to be specifically. My great-grandparents were from different countries. On my dad's side from Lebanon. And then my grandparents were born in Cuba. And somehow or the other, they ended up in the Caribbean, and some were from Venezuela. So that's kind of where my passion comes. But here's the key. Here's the key. The key is that I think that we all in this world, we have a chance to give something back. I didn't just come to take or exist. Before I leave this world, my viewers, they have to know that we were here. They know that Drew was here. Why? Because of some positive things Drew has done in his life, and he's trying to help. You may not like this direction, you may not like what he's saying, but he's trying something. And I think that's what people need to understand. We need to find that niche. We need to find that place so we could contribute our verse to the song of life.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
No, it is the topic of how does someone lead a good life? What is a good life? And you can think about that a million ways. And Caleb, like I brought up the other day, I said, good life is not necessarily a happy life. I think most people would agree that Jesus led a good life. It had huge impact on human society. I'm not sure he had a happy life. And if he had chosen to avoid risk and safety overall, as we seem to have done in this country, Jesus' life might have turned out a little different. But I think the way he chose to take risk and lead a good life, turns out, had a positive impact. I've always said I want one thing on my gravestone, which was he made a difference. That's it. That'd be fine. That'd be good at that point. One last thing you mentioned, I love what you said about hope, by the way, but you talked about ascending to the truth. We have to really get honest about the recent history of academia, where post-structuralism took hold about 15 years ago in this country. And I think people forget that. And post-structuralist philosophy is truth does not exist. Truth is just a point of view. It's just another point of view. And the reality is, I've had this conversation with Bill Maher a couple times, and I'm going to talk to him again soon. I want to get into this in greater detail, that truth is everything. Truth is our job. We'll never get there, but our job, particularly as scientists, is to ascend to an approximation of the truth. And the fact that some French philosophers from 75 years ago, and by the way, as like I said, I've been obsessing about the French lately, they will have none of the post-structuralists. They laugh at people that think that that's a worthy philosophical point of view. It was a blip, a minuscule blip in the history of philosophy that went from about 1953 to about 1965, and everyone left it behind, and academia in this country decided that that's what they're going to hang their hat on, a philosophical orientation that the truth did not exist. It was only a point of view, and that has done untoward harm. We've got to get back to trying to the best that this instrument can, approximate the truth. Paul.
Yes, I 100% agree with you, and particularly for the young people, because they are constantly looking on at people like you, people like myself, people out there that they're looking for some direction, and they need to understand that they want to see that we are governed by some semblance of structure and truth, in that we are not making things up willy-nilly, and that we have some purpose. The issue is what is the purpose of why you exist?
Oh shoot!
And what you're doing today, etc. And did I freeze?
Freeze. You did freeze, but go ahead. It came right back. So
yeah, look. And the thing about it is, in medicine and science, which is the area that we operate in, we have to operate on the truth. We have to operate on fact. We have to operate on reason. And we can't fudge that. And it's when we try to fudge that we get into trouble. And I think in COVID, that is what happened. We were trying. I don't know if historically we will show that people really made honest mistakes. I don't know if that's what will be shown. I don't know if it will be shown that people made deliberate mistakes. What I do know is today, when we look at the body of evidence, when we look at the body of everything that was done, most of everything that was done was wrong. And it boggles the mind that how all of these people could all be wrong at the same time. It makes no sense.
Well, mass formation, hysteria. I mean, it happens. It does. I mean, look at history. I thought we'd gotten over that as human beings. Turns out all these things happen and re-happen and happen again.
Yes, I also agree with you on that. And the reality about it, boy, Drew, is that we were put into a tailspin. I think a lot of people wanted to do good. I think that many people got sidelined and were spun into a loop when they gained a lot of power. And I think we lost several things in COVID. One of the key things we lost was the virus. This pathogen took some people, but I think the principal thing that we lost is we lost people from the lockdowns, from the denial of treatment, from the medical management. But what we really lost is our freedoms, our liberties, our own decision making. And I think we bring it back to the wellness company in the sense that that is the thing that appealed to me when I joined them, is that a new company, nascent, developing, everybody makes mistakes and they're feeling their way. But what they're trying to do in the dictum is to empower you again to take back your own decision making about your medical health. That it is you as an individual should run your own body, your medical decision making and your health. And not no bureaucrats sitting down in DC at CDC and NIH just making policies that are affecting your life. So I think from that point of view, I think that is one of the things that we lost principally. And
I want to refine it. I want to refine it, Paul, and say we gave up our sacred privileges given by God according to our Constitution, and every other country followed suit in their own way. But what we really lost was the ability to protect those rights and privileges. So the bureaucrats showed they could trample them. And we have to reestablish rules that prevent them from trampling, or we have lost again.
Excellent. And I think what you're actually saying is that the world of January, February 2020 no longer exists. And it's that people need to really wrap their head around that world is gone. Our government and leaders took that world away from us. And it's exactly how you just said it. We need to enact some constraints on the powerful people and the decision makers so they could never do those things again. And I don't know, after 4 years, I don't know if we even begun to get there because we're still squabbling and fighting. And I'm very, very concerned. Some days I talk to a lot of the people in the freedom movement, the senior people, the people you see on the media every day, and a lot of us sometimes are very depressed because it's almost as though you use that term, you're almost like you're pissing in the wind. And I hope I'm not being disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful, but I understand the feeling. I've certainly had that feeling, but I think it's moving. I have a new. I have to wrap our conversation up today, but I welcome you back anytime, and hopefully we can do this again soon. But my motto is we can do better in 2024. That's my motto. It's very simple. We can do better, and we're all rowing in the right. We're starting to row. The ship's starting to turn, and we just got to do better. Just keep going.
Yep, I will close with that also. That using what I was trying to say before is that I think we as human beings need to be very tender and have care with each other. We need to be able to forgive. We need to have gracious mercy with each other and understand that we are all imperfect people, fallen people who make a lot of mistakes, but we try, and we have to do work on ourselves every day and admit that. We must admit that we need to do work every day. It's like our relationships. We need to work on them every day because at the end of the day, when we look back at life, what is of value most, Drew, I've realized is the triumph of integrity over everything else. And the question is, do you have, as a person, a line of integrity that is fixed? Or do you have a line of integrity that can be moved? My line of integrity is fixed. You may not like my line. You may not like how I think because I'm a very matter-of-fact, blunt person. I want to deal with people who have a fixed line of integrity that I know right from wrong. I know where you stand. I know what you believe in. It's very, very important. This 2024, Drew, is probably going to be the most consequential time and year in our lifetime, this coming election. And I'll just leave it like that.
Well, it's not time to, well, whatever your point of view on it is, it's not time to let down. It's time to stand up, which is an extraordinary thing that we must do. And I walk away with two words. Go ahead.
I want to thank you, Drew. I mean, yeah, you invited me on your show to talk again, but I must also thank you in the sense that you are one of the people with people like America Out Loud, these kinds of platforms that when the legacy media canceled us and smeared and slandered us, people like me, McCullough, Reish, all of you know the whole guy, all the guys, you bring them on. It was people like you who kept the door open to us and gave us a voice. And it was us, 15, 20 out of us, I'll be very straightforward, who decided 4 years ago that we're going to stand up. And we're not going to take this. We're going to wage this battle for the public, for the world. And it's still 15, 20. There are few additions and few changes, dropouts, additions. But there's a core group. We've held the wall because of you. Because you gave our back. We still need you. And you are actually on the front line too. So you play both roles. It's very important that you stay in the fight with us because we're not going to back down. And
fantastic. I'm with you. But I'm one small outlet, but I agree with you. It is time to stand up, and I'm happy to have been. I'm delighted to have been a part of it. And when I heard, by the way, who they were canceling, guys like you and Bhattacharya and Reish, I was like, well, that's what is going on. Why would you cancel those guys? And I bet I could learn something. My simple thing was, Paul, was just, I bet I could learn something from talking to these guys. I bet there's something there that I'm not hearing And you were one of the first ones when you talked about what happened with Redfield and the 6 feet distancing. I was like, oh, well, that's where it came from. Okay, I just learned something very specific. And that's where it came from. And now we have Fauci admitting it. That's where it came from. It came from nowhere. It came from bureaucrats just dreaming it up. Nowhere. All right, we got to wrap this up. But the 2 words I want to leave everyone with that you mentioned a few minutes ago was hope. Now, you said you're feeling kind of down about things and your group is feeling down. I want you to hang on the hope, Paul. Dr. Alexander, use your own word. It's hope. And the other word is, in order to maintain integrity, Dr. Alexander used the word fallen, which we all are. We all have weaknesses. We must constantly reassess ourselves or we will fall short of our integrity. So constantly reassess and accept that fallenness. Dr. Paul Alexander, see him at drpaulalexander.com. Thank you, sir, and hope we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Drew.
Cheers.
Thank you.
There is his book, Presidential Takedown. Check that out if you like some of what you heard today. I hope to get him back again soon. We have a lot to talk about, he and I. Here's what's coming up. Here's our schedule. I think we just rescheduled Roseanne, if I remember. She was going to come in yesterday, but she rescheduled with us. Peter McCullough coming in. G. Van Fleet, Dowd, Joseph Latipo, Roseanne. Look at that list. And we got more. We're just filling it up. We have great guests, and we'll take recommendations if you guys have any.
They want Bill Maher.
Oh, Bill would be great. I don't know if we could pull that off. Well, you can work on it.
Maybe he'll come. Yeah, we're going to see him next week.
You're going to see him soon, so we can work on him.
Maybe we can get him, get him on the TWC bandwagon.
We'll see. We'll have a conversation with him soon, you and I. And you tend to be more persuasive with him than I. So we'll see how that goes. I'll leave that to you.
I'm a master of persuasion.
Thank you, Blet Dingus, for your support there. We watched you, and we watch all of you interacting with everybody. We're watching that Rumble rant. Susan, anything that come out of that?
I wanted to show our new studio shots.
Okay.
But I don't know if Caleb will do it.
Caleb, can you show the shots?
Let's see. I can show a couple of these other, two of the cameras. So wait, Susan, I see you over there. All right, so this is a shot.
Okay, let's show that one.
That's one.
Oh, nice. That's very cool.
Look at that. We got to do color correction.
Oh my goodness.
Look at that. Nice little fireplace looking set over there. That looks nice.
That's going to be good.
And then
we're gonna, what else we got?
When we have other guests that are coming into the studio. Oh yeah, wait, she's running to the other spot here. Let's see.
That's her spot that we come to see.
Oh, wait. So
that's going to be the
her camera is not working. But this is the corner.
Oh.
Where the other guests
this is going to be our new guest corner. Yeah. I say the guest should be there. I think that's when we have guests in the studio, it should be that seat. And,
it's not really focused. It's not really zoomed out correctly, but it's,
No, I'm sorry. I take it back. I think it should be the other mic, guys. Caleb, show that up again.
Wait.
I think it should be the mic over, let me see if I can get it, over there. I think it should be that mic as our primary.
I might, switch you guys back and forth next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
possibly
know.
Even have
looking at each other.
Yeah.
There.
People they're getting to see some behind the scenes here at the show. Yeah. Look at that.
Right. Here I am over here. So.
Oh yeah, that's an angle they've never seen before. Nice.
Susan's been working very hard on this studio, so we appreciate that. And Caleb as well. And all right, everybody, I've got to run. Again, back Tuesday, 3:00 Pacific time. Thank you all for being here. We were watching a lot of good I thought it was kind of good discussions on the restream and the rant today. It was heated. I saw it. Susan, anything come out of that for you?
No, I love the guy. I follow his
No. I mean, all the stuff that was going on. Oh, Paul, you love.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And we had him on last year, and he was saying all this stuff before.
Not like this. There's clarity.
He's very ambitious, and he really wants to spread the love. But follow his Substack because he's got a lot of information.
All right. Having said all that, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you. We'll see you next Tuesday, 3:00 Pacific time. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 888-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.